What's up guys, it's Bliskin Boy here, and I think it's safe to say that enough time has passed by with Halo Infinite for me to really go back and look at its sandbox as a whole and talk about the strengths and weaknesses. Now, luckily for me, in the case of Halo Infinite, it's very easy to identify the issue with the sandbox. But before I can talk about that, I need to give you a little bit of backdrop as to why Halo CE Sandbox worked so well in the first place. Now, those of you who have been around for pretty much even like anything, if you've been here for a minute, you've heard me talk about Halo 1 and how good its sandbox is. The reason why I always say how good Halo 1 sandbox is because Halo 1 has two core tenets when it comes to its weapons, and it does not deviate from these two tenets. You have plasma weapons and you have kinetic weapons. Plasma weapons are very good at stripping down shields. Kinetic weapons are very good at damaging health. So if you have an enemy like a grunt that doesn't have shields, you utilize a kinetic weapon to just chew them apart. If you try to use that same kinetic weapon on, say, an elite, it wouldn't work as well. However, if you pair that up with a plasma weapon, you can strip his shields first and then approach him with that kinetic weapon and take him down. Now, there's a lot of other variations when it comes to this kind of stuff. Like, people have mentioned in the past, hey, Halo 1, it also has a lot of depth with, using grenades in tandem with your kinetic or plasma weapons, using melee. There's a lot going on there, but at the end of the day, there are these two core tenets when it comes to the projectiles you fire out of your weapons. If something doesn't strictly follow the basis of plasma or kinetic, it is straight up a power weapon. Take the rocket launcher, for example. Now, let's fast forward to Halo Infinite, and we see immediately there is a deviation from this mentality. You have plasma and you have kinetic, however, you also have hard light and you also have electric. Now, to make matters worse, not only are you overcomplicating the sandbox right off the bat, but you are also defying the definitions of the different weapons. So for example, you have a gun in Halo Infinite that's like the Stalker Rifle. The Stalker Rifle functions like a kinetic weapon. It's not really good for stunning enemies and chewing down shields. This is a headshot weapon. This is for sniping people. It works very similarly to something like the Battle Rifle, the DMR, or Bungie's Carbine. Now, I mentioned Bungie's Carbine because I do want to say how, past Halo 1, this whole idea of plasma and kinetic and their identities does start to get a little bit diluted with weapons like the Carbine. That's not to say that I dislike the Carbine, because I do believe there are ways to incorporate weapons like the Carbine that fit in better with how Halo is supposed to function. However, guns like the Carbine and then later on the Stalker Rifle here in Halo Infinite just kind of detract from Plasma's core identity. Plasma's supposed to strip shields and do some other weird utility stuff. For example, the Halo 1 Plasma Rifle also has the ability to slow people down in their tracks, so it's very good to keep an enemy in place while you're stripping their shields and give you the opportunity to melee, throw a grenade, or switch to a kinetic weapon. In Halo Reach, the plasma pistol has the ability to EMP vehicles, so not only can you take out shields, but you can also take out vehicular threats and allow yourself to get close to them, to board them, to blow them up, or whatever you do. Halo 2 had the utility of the noob combo, where you use your plasma pistol to completely wipe someone's shields and then switch to your battle rifle and immediately take them down. This is a beautiful example of that plasma and kinetic dichotomy. But yeah, plasma guns always had these utility type of roles because plasma is weird. Plasma doesn't function how bullets function, so you can do a lot of cool things with how plasma weapons work. However, when you have guns like the Stalker rifle, it shows a lack of understanding of what makes plasma weapons special. Now, with hard light weapons, they're not necessarily a huge problem. You have stuff like the Sentinel beam that's been in Halo games before, but the Sentinel beam is and should always be balanced as a power weapon. It strips through shields, it strips through health, it's good at killing Flood, it's good at killing Covenant, it's good at killing like whatever you shoot at. This is okay because this is a Forerunner weapon and it's supposed to be like something powerful. I'd say it's even underwhelming in games like Halo 2 and 3 where it's only really viable against the Flood, and I don't mind having it here in Infinite be super strong. Because like the rocket launcher, it doesn't really follow the patterns of plasma and kinetic, so it fits into that power weapon niche. But then you have other hard light weapons like the I forget what the name of the hard light shotgun is called, but it tries to do that whole gimmick of, either go for spread or more damage when, you focus on the vertical firing mode. But what ends up happening is that the shots are really inconsistent, it phases through enemies sometimes, and you need to fire multiple times, and it's just this weird kind of gimmicky weapon. And it's just kind of like, it's not plasma, it's not kinetic, and it's not a power weapon either, so it's just kind of garbage. And I feel like if you just incorporated a lot of the factors from the hard light shotgun to the normal kinetic shotgun, you could have made the normal kinetic shotgun a lot more interesting. Add spread versus, maybe a slug mode. Do something cool like that, I've always said that it's cooler to have one gun that can do 10 things than 10 different guns that all do the same thing. But the meat of this video, the real problem I want to bring up, and the biggest issue with Halo Infinite Sandbox as a whole, is electric weapons. Now, let's start with the Disruptor. There are things about this gun that I like. I like how it does continuous damage. I like how electric affects things around it. So if you shoot it at a vehicle, it can EMP it, but then it also affects the shields of a guy nearby. And yeah, that's cool and all, but this is all stuff that the plasma pistol should do. Now, the plasma pistol in Halo Infinite is garbage. Unless you're using the very specific utility of charging up the shot and taking out somebody's shields, there is no reason to use the plasma pistol. Now, the reason why this is an issue is because the plasma pistol has always functioned like Halo's AK. You see it everywhere. It's not the best weapon, but if you know how to use it, it's a reliable tool. It's that good old reliable. In the same way that a lot of games balance something like the AK-47. You pick it up, you know exactly what to expect from it. It's not going to necessarily excel at anything, but it's going to be something that you can rely on, find a lot of ammunition for, find it everywhere. The plasma pistol is that gun. In Halo Infinite, the plasma pistol is just really, really niche to the point where it's beyond nerfing. So all the cool stuff that the Disruptor does, the plasma pistol should be able to do. Again, it's similar to that whole situation with the hard light shotgun, where if it didn't exist, another weapon could just be a lot cooler instead of having two subpar weapons. So get rid of the Disruptor and everything it does, incorporate it with the plasma pistol, and add in the plasma pistol's charge shot. But we're not done yet. We also have the shock rifle. Now, I've always said that Halo has an issue with a lot of weapons being implemented into the game that kills one of the most fun parts of it in the multiplayer, the vehicular play. Whether it's Halo CE's unbalanced Magnum in the multiplayer, Halo 3's Spartan Laser, Halo 2's lock-on rocket launcher, or Halo Reach's just, everything. There is just an issue with guns that can just blow up vehicles super easy. So you might be thinking at this point, well, Bliskin, the shock rifle disables them for a few moments instead of destroying them. Isn't that a good thing? Well, yes, but making it act as a sniper rifle, it just makes it too easy to disable vehicles. And then when you couple that together with the fact that vehicles are very easy to destroy in Halo Infinite already, you can kind of see what the issue is here. So the shock rifle basically says no to an entire part of the gameplay that would otherwise be really fun. Even in the campaign, when I'm flying around in banshees or trying to play a little bit differently, enemies with shock rifles just completely say no. It's like a really annoying. It's almost similar to jackal snipers. Specifically more so towards Halo 3 or Halo Reach, where it's not killing me outright, but it's just putting a halt to the gameplay. And that's just not really fun. And there are already other weapons in the game that function better as anti-vehicle weapons, but are also not really too overpowered. The normal rocket launcher, where you have to really time and line up your shots. The Hydra, which does like the lock-on thing, where you have to hit the vehicle a whole bunch of times before it blows up, but it's still really easy to hit it. And even like the skewer. The skewer can destroy vehicles, but it usually takes up to 2 shots. So if you're driving the vehicle, you get a little bit of a warning and a chance to readjust before you're just wiped off the map or your vehicle becomes neutered. But the disruptor and the shock rifle are just... They're a perfect example of just how 343 does not understand plasma weapons. They literally make an entire other weapon class that features all the cool stuff that plasma is supposed to do, and then they just neuter plasma weapons. I mean, the only plasma weapons I really like in Halo Infinite that I feel function well is, believe it or not, the pulse rifle and the Ravager. Now, the Ravager we've already talked about before. It's a plasma shotgun. I like how it's balanced. You know, I use that to take out the shields, and then I use something like the Commando to do that headshot. It's a nice translation, albeit a different take of how it functions in Halo 2 with the plasma pistol and battle rifle. And then with the pulse rifle, it kind of functions as a more true-to-life plasma weapon version of the carbine. Now, we talked before about how the carbine was more similar to the stalker rifle in the sense that it's basically just a kinetic weapon classified with the plasma class, because Halo 2 onwards, we really started to see that annoying thing of, you know, weapon equivalence, where one side has a weapon that does this, so the other side has to have a weapon like that. And like, no. That just leads to bloated sandbox decisions and weapons that are just copy-pastes of other weapons. But the pulse rifle, it's like a really well-balanced mid-range weapon that isn't a power weapon. You see, you can't use it at super long range, but you also can't use it at super close range. You have to use it at mid-range, and at mid-range it's very good for stripping down shields. Now, if they added a little bit more of a stun factor and made switching to your kinetic weapon a little bit faster so you can go for that head or body shot to finish them off, I think the pulse rifle would have been a really nice addition. Hell, you could even feature a kind of charge type shot which works better at longer ranges for taking down people's shields, and that would fall more in line with the plasma pistol and the Ravager and how they have that alternate firing mode. And yeah, it would just create a little bit of coherence with the plasma weapons a little bit better. But yeah, here we are like almost 3 years later, and I've had a lot of time to think about Halo Infinite Sandbox, and I just wanted to identify the key issues with it, because it's very easy to say, oh yeah, I don't like how this game plays, it's bad. But it's always worth it to try to figure out why certain things don't work well. Because if you identify what's wrong, you can start thinking about the solutions, which is kind of what this whole video is about. So yeah, a rebalanced pulse rifle, you know, getting rid of electric weapons and bringing their traits over to plasma weapons, getting rid of some of the hard light weapons, making the sentinel beam just its own kind of power weapon sort of thing, getting rid of guns that deviate from the identity of their class like the stalker rifle would really improve Halo Infinite Sandbox overall. And of course, I didn't bring it up a lot throughout this video, but you know, the precision weapon meta with guns like the battle rifle, with guns like the sidekick, where you just shoot people in the head and it goes through their shields. It ignores the core tenets of Halo, which is shields and health, and instead of improving on Halo C's one flaw, it instead just doubles down on it. Like, get rid of those two. But again, I didn't bring that up a lot because we've talked about that in the past. But yeah, what are your thoughts on Halo Infinite Sandbox? What's your favorite Halo sandbox? I have received requests recently, well, in the last couple months at least, to go over Halo 3 sandbox, so we're going to be doing that. I just need to make sure I have enough footage for that. But yeah, you can look forward to that, but for now, just let me know what you think about Halo Infinite. Anyways, this has been Pliskin, over and out.
This is Solid Snake. Hey, subscribe to Pliskin Boy. God damn it.
You heard him.